This conference will now.
Okay, so let's get started. So yesterday we started discussing about Git activities. So we have seen the Git workflow. So if you see, the main advantage of using Git is, so if you see the name itself, right, it's a version control system, VCS. Okay, so every time if you push any changes, it is going to create one commit ID. Okay, whenever you want to, if you, due to some reason, if something happened to that, right, due to some issue, due to some changes in the code, that application is not working, right? That is where if you have the version, previous version, we can use that previous version to restore it, or we can go back. Okay, that is where whenever you do any kind of modification, okay, all the versions will be stored in the Git itself. Okay, and another thing is collaboration. Okay, so when for one project, multiple developers will be working on different features. Sometimes they has to work in a collaborative way where whatever the work is doing with developer 1, it has to be completed by developer 2 or developer 3 as well. Okay, some functionalities may be dependent on the other functionality as well. Okay, so that is where we use this version control system or source code management tool, okay, like GitHub, to store the source code. Okay, so now all the once the task is done, they're going to push that code to the remote repository. Okay, and then they can start collaborating on that. Okay, so while doing this, we are going to use a Git client in our local laptop. First thing is we need to download that Git client. Okay, so Git is a client. Whatever the activities you want to perform, you need to use Git. Once your task is done, then we're going to publish or push that changes to the your remote repository. Okay, so that is where once you install, this is how it looks like. Okay, so once you install, once that folder is a Git folder. Okay, so this is how it looks like. This is virtual. We have working area where we can create the files, we can modify the files, and then we'll stage the files by using git add, and then we'll commit the file to the local repository using git commit. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's create a new repository and let's try to add the files, and let's try to push that file to the remote repository again. Okay, so let's do it one more time so that you can easily understand. Let's go to GitHub.
Hello.
uh, yes.
Uh,
Any doubts?
yes. Can you unmute?
Unmute whom?
Anuj, Miss Reddy, if you can.
I can hear your voice.
So you can hear you. Okay, fine. So yeah, I have one doubt actually. I've seen yesterday's session. I've seen
Okay.
recorded session actually yesterday, and
Uh-huh.
when I was trying the reverse thing, like
Okay.
staging and restore. Yeah, when we take a file from working directory to staging directory, right?
Okay.
Hello. That time my file is not coming to staging directory actually. It's giving
Okay.
something else. It's showing that it's run, but the file is not coming back. Can you show that once?
Yeah, sure. We'll come back to that. Right now, I'm showing one thing. Okay, I'll come back to that in after this topic.
Okay, okay, fine.
Yeah,
Thank
sure. So if you see right now, I logged into GitHub and I'm here in my organization. So if you go to repositories, right now I have one repository is there. Let me create one more repository. Okay. So this time I will say, let's say for example, Amazon. Okay, so this is my repository and you can see I'm going to create public repository. So when you say public, you can see anyone on the internet can see this information. Whatever is there in this repository, they can able to see that, but you can choose who can push or commit the changes. Okay, so whereas in case of private, no one can uh, even see that as well. Okay, you have to choose who can commit that. Right now I'm creating it as a public repository and click on create. Okay, so if you see, if you want to create a copy, local copy of this repository, I'm going to use this https. Okay, if you use this is a URL for that. Let's copy this. Okay, let's go to your desktop, open a terminal. Okay, so now I'll say git clone. This is a command. If you want to create a local copy, we're going to use git clone and the URL of your repository. Okay, enter. You can see it says you appear to clone an empty repository. I know that. I'll say cd Amazon, and I'll open this in the Visual Studio Code. I'll say code dot. It will open that specific folder in the Visual Studio Code. Okay, VS Code. Okay, so now let's close this. Right now you see I don't have anything. Okay, I'll also open the terminal. You can see right now I'm here in the Amazon folder. So can someone tell me what is the command to check the remote repository information? The command to check the remote repository. Git,
Git status.
no, git remote hyphen v. So it will tell you the remote repository details like this. Okay, git status is to check the changes. What are the changes you have done and where are the current changes are there. Okay, so now let's create a file java.txt. Okay, so I'll say some dummy data. So now what is a command to check the current changes status? That is what git status is. Okay, if I say git status, it will tell you is there any changes are there. Okay, and what is the next command if you want to stage these changes? Git add and the file name, or you can say dot means it will take all the files what and all are there in the current folder. Okay, so I'll say dot git status. Okay, you can see where is the file now. It
Staging
changes to be
area.
committed. Yeah, it is in staging area now. So what is the command to commit these changes?
Git commit mm,
And
m.
hyphen m is the message. So
Add file Java.
okay, so now if you say git status, everything is in local repository now. There is nothing, no changes are there. So now whenever you commit, okay, whenever you do commit, even local commit, it's going to create one commit ID for your changes. Okay, if I say git log, you see, so it will tell you the commit ID, and you can see who has done this, what is the date, and what is the commit message you have given. Okay, so that is how it will be every time whenever you do commit. Okay, it is going to create one commit ID. Okay, so now currently my changes are in my local repository. If you want to push the changes to the remote repository, what is the command?
Git push and the file name.
Git push origin. Okay, this will be the command to push the changes to the remote repository. So if you see here, origin is the reference name which you are giving here. If you see, I can also change this name if I want. For example, if I say git remote hyphen v, if you see, this is the reference name. When you say origin, this represents this URL. Okay, I can also change this name as well. I'll show you that. Okay, for
If
now,
some other file we are creating, then again it will give the name origin only, right?
yeah, this will not change. It's just pointing to this link. That's all. Remote repository.
Okay,
So it's just a reference. So when you say origin, it represents to this remote repository information, remote repository URL basically. Okay,
okay, okay.
yeah. Git push origin. We can also change this to something else. That is fine. Okay, I'll show you that later. Now the changes are getting pushed to the remote repository. So if you go back to your GitHub, if you refresh, okay, so you see there is a file has been added now, and the same community will
Yes.
be there. Okay, Bhaskar, is that clear now?
One more doubt I have.
Yes,
So
yes,
you
it's clear,
have,
sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
oh yeah, the doubt is like you are creating repository in GitHub, like in going to GitHub and creating repository from
Yes.
local it's not possible to create repository and push it to GitHub?
Yes, we have seen that in yesterday's. See, repository you need to create in the remote only. Okay, so there is a concept of
Okay,
branches. Okay, so that is there. That is the next topic. I'll come back to that. But repository always you have to create in the remote repository first.
okay. Like the main one has to be in a or like we have to create on GitHub only, right?
This one, yes, this
Okay,
repository I'm talking about.
okay,
Okay,
okay.
yeah. So this is how we'll do the Git operation. This is a Git workflow. Okay. So first thing is we'll do the changes in the local repository. Okay. Working area, staging area, local repository. Once your task is done, then you're going to push or commit the change to the remote repository. Okay. So now sometimes what happens? Okay. We also discussed about Git reverse operations, right? Let's understand that. So if you go back to this, okay. So what I will do, I will do some changes to this. Okay. Now, let's say for example, right now I have only two lines, but in the production you will see hundreds of lines will be there in that if it is actual environment, right? Where developers will writing the code. So now I did some changes. Okay, I realized that this is not the this is there is something issue there is some issue with that current code. Now I want to undo the changes. Okay, so first you need to find out what is the current status, git status. So you see it says currently there are some changes. Now if I want to discard the changes from my working area, see here what is the command. Okay, so see right now I have two lines are there. So what I am doing, I will say git restore the file name. Okay, git restore and the file name. When I do this, whatever the changes has been done right now, okay, that will get discarded. Okay, so let's enter this command. See what happened when I do this git restore, it will discard the changes whatever you have done in the working area itself. Okay, fine. So this is one activity. Now again, okay, so let's add git status. You see there are some changes are there. I'll say git add. Now where is the file? The file is in staging area. Okay, so for example, if you want to undo the changes, okay, from the staging area, this is the command. You see git restore hyphen hyphen stage. Okay, so if I say this, the file, see right now the file is in staging area. Okay, so I am executing this command. Okay, git restore hyphen hyphen stage. What will happen when I do this? Whatever the file was here, it will go back to the working area again. Okay, let's see that. Restore hyphen hyphen staged and the file name. See, this is a command to unstage the file. Okay, now if I say git status, where is the file now? It
Working
is
area.
yeah, it is untracked. You can see they say git add. Okay, now it again went back to working area. So this is the command to unstage the file you have to use from working area. Sorry, from staging area. This is what you have to do. This is clear right now.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So similarly, when you commit the file, okay, if you want to undo the changes from the local repository, okay, what is the command? Can someone tell me? Yesterday we have seen.
First, we have to bring the log,
Okay,
git log
git
on
log.
my like
You can see you can use
my.
git log. This is how it will come. You can also use git log hyphen hyphen one line.
Online, one line.
Yeah, if you have so many commits, for example, let's say I have 10 commits or 20 commits are there. If I want to see only two commits, I can also use this flag -2, okay, or
Okay.
-1. Like that, you only see the latest commit information. So that is one other thing. Now you can see I have two commits are there. Okay, so now you can see this is the latest commit. I want to discard these changes. Okay, so that is where we need to go back to the previous commit ID. The command is git reset.
Restore second
Okay,
last one.
git reset and the commit ID.
Yes.
Okay, you see, if I say git status, there is a file now. It went back to again working area. Okay, so in the git reset, we have couple of options are there. We have hard, soft, and mixed reset. For example, if you want to discard the changes of the previous commit, or if you want to go back to the working area or a staging area, that is where we can use these different options of git reset. Okay, you can define, for example, let's say here I can define git reset -soft. Okay, it will change the it will take the file to the working area, or if I say mixed, it will go to the staging area. If I say hard, it will delete that changes. Okay, so this is another uh, useful command to undo the changes from the local repository. Okay, now yesterday I asked you to check one more thing. Okay, when you commit to the remote repository, okay, and I want to undo the changes, what is that command we need to use? Did anyone got a chance to check that?
I think we can
Okay,
use git clone.
uh, git clone is to get the changes whatever are there from the repository. Okay, see, understand clearly. So if you want to get all the changes from remote repository, that is where we are going to use a git clone. It will create a local copy. Okay, that is where you use a git clone. Now my requirement is, see here, right now I have one. If I say git status, okay, so let me push git push origin. Now I am adding one more commit ID to the remote repository. Okay, I'll just refresh. Okay, so I did these changes. Okay, I want to undo this code. I want to remove this line. Okay, so I don't want to get complete information, but I want to revert these changes. Okay, so that is where we have a command called git revert. Okay, so before that, okay, there is a concept called head. Basically, it's a kind of a pointer. Okay, it will always point to the latest commit. Okay, so it's just a logical pointer. Okay, what it will do, it will always points to the latest commit. That is what head means. So if you go back to the, okay, if I say git log one line, okay, see here what it says. Right now it is pointing to this main. Okay, and you can see this red is local, this is remote. Okay, when I say head, always it will point to remote repository. Okay, so sometimes what happen is, okay, so let me show you that as well, that also. So I'll create one more file. utils. Okay, so now I'll do git add, git commit. Now if I say git log again, you see git log hyphen hyphen one line. So you see here, okay, so you see there is some difference is there. Okay, so here you can see this is the latest commit git. This is the latest commit, you see, added second line for Java. And you can see this is the remote repository. Sorry, yes, previously I said it's remote local repository. So this is a remote repository. This is now pointing to remote repository. This head always will point to latest commit ID. So now to make sure your local repository is sync with the remote repository, we need to push that changes to the remote repository. Once you push, this is how it looks like. Okay, the main purpose here, when I say head, it's a logical pointer which will points to the latest commit ID. Okay, if I say again git push, see here, now both my local repository and remote repository are in sync. That is how you can verify. Okay, even for example you do some changes, you want to find out using the git log, right? We can also use in this way also. Whenever whenever both local and remote, whenever it points to the same commit ID, then we can say they are in sync. Okay, so now my requirement is I want to revert my changes, okay, which are committed to remote repository. So what is the latest commit to this? Okay, you can see this is what the latest commit which we did. Okay, so now I want to undo this commit. I want to undo these changes. Okay, what I need to do? That is where we have an option called git revert. Okay, this is the command to undo the changes. Okay, so let's enter this. It will ask for the commit ID. Okay, I will say, okay, so this is the editor. Okay, so if you want to come out of the editor, what we need to do? Press escape, shift colon WQ to save the changes. Okay, enter. So now again we need to say git push origin. Okay, first we need to use git revert and the head command, okay, to undo the changes. And then once you undo the changes in the local repository, we need to push that change to the remote repository. Okay, if you go back now, if you say refresh, you see here, where was the earlier file? Is it
In remote
clear or any
repository.
doubts in this?
If you
See,
don't
I
mind,
did
can you
two
explain
steps.
one more time?
Yeah, sure. See here, I did two steps. Okay, so first thing is, okay, so we pushed the changes to the remote repository. Now I want to undo the changes, whatever I have done. That is where we have to use git revert head. Okay, once you do that, it is going to create a new commit ID and you need to provide the commit message that we are doing in the local. Keep that in mind. Whatever we are doing, that is in the local. So once you create that, then we need to push the changes to the remote repository. Okay, so that is what we did. So first we need to use git revert head and provide the commit message. Okay, and then we need to push that change to the remote repository. Okay, basically we are undoing the changes whatever you have done from the remote repository. Okay, so in the interview they might ask you, okay, this is a common question they will ask you. Okay, so how to undo the changes in local or remote? Okay, so let me write it down. git restore, okay, hyphen file name, and then we need to use git reset to undo the changes from the local repository, and git revert. This is, so don't get confused, this is to undo the change in the local repository. Git revert is the command to undo the change from the remote repository. Okay, so these are the some of the operations, git reverse operations basically, which we can perform. Okay, so see, most of the times you're going to use git uh, command line only. Okay, like for example we're using git commands, right? That is where we'll use. If you are feeling this is a bit difficult, okay, that is where we can also use this VS code to push the changes to the remote repository as well. Okay, so if you have installed VS code, okay, so you can see once you open the git folder, right, it will be having already the remote repository information where to push and all. Okay, so now let me show you how to push the changes to the remote repository using the Visual Studio Code or VS Code. Okay, let's create one more file, db.utils. Okay, so now you can see whenever you create a file, you can see if you go before that we need to install one extension. Okay, so if you go to this, right, so you have to install an extension called git. Okay, so you have to install a, so that it will, you can see once you install that, this changes, it will show automatically, source control basically. Okay, so you can also, you can install one of the extension. You can see we can install this. Okay, there are multiple extensions are there, just check that and install it. So once you install that extension, what will happen is whenever you do any changes, it will automatically detect the changes, and you can see if you go to this source control, okay, it will automatically asking us the commit message. Okay, so first I have already saved it. Okay, so now I need to provide the commit message. I will say added database file commit. It will say yes, would you like to stage all your changes, and yes. Okay, you can see once you do the commit, it is asking me to sync the changes. When I say sync, it means it is going to push that change to the remote repository. Okay, right now you can see this is what I have in my current repository. I am going to do sync. Okay, so this action will pull. Okay, for now just ignore for some time what is pull and push. I'll say okay. See, now the changes has been pushed to the remote repository. So if you go back, see, I have that file. So this is another easy way if you want to push the changes from the local repository using VS Code. Okay, so as soon as you add any changes, it will detect the changes. Okay, see again. Okay. So if I say Control S, see here, it is automatically detecting the there are changes are there. Go here, add the commit message, and push the changes to the remote repository. Okay, so like this we can also use git we can also use git web as well, git web client as well. Okay, so if you see, show more options, you can see we have git bash, we are using command line based. You can also use git java as well. Okay, so it's a graphical user interface. Okay, you can see if you want to create or publish, okay, to the remote repository, we can do that. Okay, like that. But easiest way is using the command line, or you can also use this VS Code. Okay, is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Now we say git status, everything should be clear. Okay, everything is up to date. Now so far we are seeing how to do the change in the local repository, and we are seeing how to push that to the remote repository. But what if, okay, let's say for example, see, for one project, we know there are multiple developers will be working. Once a task is done, they will also push their change to the remote repository. This is how Git works, right? So if it find out, okay, let's say for example, the remote repository, you see there are file 1, file 2, file 3 are there. Okay, you created one copy in your local laptop, so same files are there. If we try to add, for example, file 4, and if we try to push this to the remote repository, it will accept. Okay, now this is one scenario. Another scenario is, what if another developer commits any code to this? For example, he is committing, let's say, file 5. Okay, so now you can see here there are some additional changes are there in the remote repository. Now if we directly push the changes to the remote repository, it will not accept. First, what it will do, it will ask you to get the changes whatever are there in the remote repository to your local, and then you push. So this is a common scenario, right? Because when the multiple developers are working for a project, this is what will happen. He might commit some changes. This developer will also might commit the changes, right? So first thing what we need to do, we need to get the changes from the remote repository to the local repository, and then we need to push our change to the remote repository. Okay, to verify this, what I'm going to do, okay, right now I don't have any other developer, but I'll create a file manually in the GitHub, and then we'll see how it works. Okay, so I will add one file here. Okay, you can see from remote GitHub also I can directly add a file. I'll say create a file. For example, I'll say file3.txt. This is a file 3. Okay, so you can see commit the changes. Okay, add the commit message. Okay, and commit the changes. Okay, so right now you can see I have one more file. I have 3 files are there, but in my local I'm having only 2 files. Okay, so now what I will do, I'll also add one more file to this. Okay, file4.txt. Okay, see, assume that multiple developers are working. Okay, so other developers also will commit the code, right? During the time, okay, how we need to push our change to the remote repository. Okay, that is the scenario here. Okay, so now I did some changes. I'll save it. I'll say git status. Okay, there is one change is there. Git add, git commit -m. Okay, now here comes. Okay, when I say git push, see what happens. Okay, see, we did one change. Okay, and some other developers also did some commit to the remote repository. Now we are trying to add our changes to the remote repository. See what will happen. It says, you can see it rejected. Okay, so because if there are any changes in the remote repository, first you need to get the changes to the local repository, and then you have to push that change to the remote repository. Okay, you can see updates were rejected because the remote repository contains work that you do not have. Okay, so that is where to get the changes. See here, it is not a copy we are doing. We have already copy. Now we need to get the changes. Whatever the changes are there in the remote repository, to get the changes, we have a command called git pull. We are going to use the git pull option to get the changes from the remote repository. Okay, see, it is rejecting because there are some changes are there in remote repository which are not there in the local repository. Okay, that is why. So now I'll say first git pull. See what happens right now. I have three files are there. File 3 is not there. Okay, git pull. See, now it is getting the only changes. Whatever the changes has been done by the other developer. Okay, it is getting that changes. You can see we have file 3 is there now. Okay, so now my local repository and remote repository are in sync. Now if I say git push, okay, it should accept the changes without any issues. Okay, this is the common practice which will follow. Okay, whenever you before you push the changes, right, it is best practice to do git pull, so that if any other developers committed the code, we will also get that code to a local repository, and then your local and remote repository will be in the sync. Okay, then you can push your change to the remote repository without any issues. Okay, so if I say refresh, see, I have the file 4 is there. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, Harish.
Okay,
Clear.
fine. Now, okay, in the real time, what will happen? Okay, so you can see, as soon as you create a repository, it is going to create one branch called main branch. Okay, so as soon as you create a repository, it will create one main branch. Earlier we used to call it as a master, I think. Okay, so now they renamed it to main branch. Okay, so now generally what happens, from the main branch, that is where we'll do the releases for the production environment. Okay, so if you see right now, you are committing the code here to the main branch. Okay, so earlier we used to call it as a master. Okay, now they are calling it as a main branch. Okay, so now from the master branch, we'll take that code, we'll build that code. Okay, and then we're going to deploy that to the servers. Okay, so generally we have multiple environments, right? We have dev, QA, production. Okay, for production environment, we'll do the releases from the main branch or a master branch. Okay, similarly, we're going to create different branches. For example, for dev, we'll create separate branch. For QA, we'll be creating separate branches, and then for the pre-prod.
Hello,
Okay,
Abra.
so this is where
Jangan boslah. The class lagi काय का ते उसला.
Valence, please go on mute. Okay, see, what happens is, okay, so as soon as you create a repository, it's going to create one main branch. Okay, from main branch we'll take that source code and then we'll do the release to the production environment. Generally we'll be having multiple environments. It can be sometimes three, sometimes more than three as well. Okay, minimum three environments: dev, QA, production. Okay, when you are doing the release, when you are having multiple environments, we are going to isolate our work based on the environment. Okay, that is where we'll create different branches. Okay, we're going to create different branches. Again, this can be also based on the feature wise as well. Okay, so for example, right now they got one requirement from the customer. Okay, for example, one feature, they will create a separate branch for that specific feature and they will start working on that. Okay, similarly feature 2, feature 3, feature 4, like that. Okay, they're going to create different branches for isolation purpose. Okay, and then they can start working on that. Okay, by default, what is the branch that will get created? That is main branch. Earlier they used to call it as a master branch. Okay, so you can see here, if you want, you can also modify the name of the main branch as well. Okay, if you go to the settings, you can see I can rename the default branch. Okay, I can also rename it if I want. Okay, so you can see if you scroll down, we have an option called you can also delete this as well. Okay, danger zone. Okay, you can see, for example, you want to change the repository visibility. Currently it is public, but if you want to make it private, you can do it from here. Okay, if you want to change, if you want to delete the repository, you can also do that as well. Okay, there is one more thing which I want to tell you is, for example, this is the organization which we created. What if I want to change the name of the organization? Okay, what will happen? Let's see. Okay, so you can see, for example, if you want to rename this. Okay, so generally, see the for example, this is my current name of the organization. Okay, so, and if you want to rename, I have an option as well. You can rename it, or if you want to delete this, that is also possible. Okay, let's rename this organization. If I rename, what will happen? Okay, see, we will create a redirect for your repository. Okay, you will need to update all your local repositories. Okay, so for example, if I replace sorry, if I rename like this, I say like this. Okay, so what is the problem? Okay, so if you see, we need to update this information wherever you have used this local repository. Okay, so if you see, okay, you can see it will be added with your organization. So now I'm going to rename this completely, right, to 007. Okay, if I access this 009 after renaming it, it will not work. Okay, we have to rename, we have to update this information always when you rename it. Generally it will not happen, but in sometimes if you rename your organization, that's what the problem will happen. Okay, you need to always check that you need to update this information with the latest your latest organization name. If you still use this, it will not work. Okay, for example, if I see, if I access this, will it work? Okay, not found. If I say, just a second, let me get that URL correctly. Okay, I'm getting some information because it is there. But if after renaming it, for example, if I'm not going to update properly, if I say 7, see, this is what the error will get. Okay, so once you rename it, you need to also update wherever you're using that repository with this latest information. Okay, this will be very rarely be used. Okay, and will rarely rename the organization. Okay, this is for information only. So now I'll cancel this. If you want, you can also delete your organization as well. Okay, once you delete, it will be gone forever, so please be certain. Okay, so now, okay, let's go back. So let's see the branches. Okay, right now as soon as you create, it's going to create one main branch. Okay, we can also create branch from remote repository. Okay, for example, if I say drop down, if I say, let's say dev, you can see it's a create dev branch from main. I can also do it from local as well. Okay, so I'll say command is git branch and the branch name. Okay, so you can see right now I'm in master branch. Okay, so right now where am I? You can see here this is the main branch. Okay, main and master both are same. Right now I'm here in the main branch. So if I create a branch, okay, it is going to whatever the files are there from the master branch, it will also it will take the current state of the branch and it will create a new branch as well. Okay, it is going to use the existing branch data and it will create a new branch. For example, if I say dev, okay, git branch name, okay, it created a branch. To check that, you can see this is a command to check what and all the branches are there in your local repository. Okay, you can see we have dev, we have main, and you can see it says star. It means what is my current branch? Current branch is main. Okay, so if I want to switch the branch, the command is git checkout, okay, and the branch name. Okay, now what it says, switch to branch dev, and you can see here this is also switched. Okay, and you can see I have all the files are there. So basically when you say git branch, right, you can see here itself from main branch, it is going to create a branch called dev from the main branch. Whatever the files were there here, okay, it will take that and it will create a new branch for us. Okay, so now if I say git branch, you can see what is the current branch now. You can see it is highlighting. Okay, so now what I will do, okay, I will add one file here. Okay, okay, this is the file 5, and then the process remains same. Okay, git add git commit hyphen m added file 5. Okay, so now where is this file? File 5 is in my dev branch. Okay, so what I will do now, I will say git checkout main. Okay, now you can see is that file is there here. Right now I'm in my main branch. Okay, if you see git branch, I'm in my main branch. Okay, so now if you want to push the changes to the remote repository with all the branches, the command is everything up to date. Let me check. There is a command hyphen all. Just a second. We can also specify like this as well. Okay, git branch hyphen m and the branch name, but there is another option which we don't need to specify like this. which will automatically take that changes. If you have multiple branches, right? So then that will be easy. Okay, this is the one, git push hyphen hyphen all origin. Okay, let me try this. Git push hyphen hyphen all origin. Okay, so if you have multiple branches, so this is the command which you can use to push your change to the remote repository. Okay, so I can see it says the new branch. Okay, so if you go back, you can see if you say drop down, you can see I have one more branch is there. Okay, dev. See, there is one notification, it says okay, compare and pull request, we'll see this tomorrow's class what is mean by pull request. Okay, but you can see this is how we can create the branch, and then we can push your changes from local repository to remote repository with the branch information as well. Okay, let me add this. Okay, so to create the branch, git branch and the branch name. Okay, so if you want to check what is the current branch, where are you, we can use git check git branch. It will show you where are you, in which current branch you are currently. Okay, so if you want to switch the branches, git checkout and the branch name. Okay, if you want to switch to the different branch, and remember what will happen when you say git branch and the branch name. Okay, so what, wherever you are currently in which branch, right, it will take all the files and then it will create a new branch with that information. Okay, so there are some other operations are there. Okay, for example, if you want to delete the branch, if you want to rename the branch. Okay, so that we'll see tomorrow's class. Okay, any doubts on this so far?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, yesterday I tried to download VS Code, and my
Okay,
system is running Windows 7, and it is not been able to download here, sir. Can I change to Windows 8?
you have to upgrade your OS for that.
Okay. So is it working with the Windows 8, sir?
But let me check. It supports only 8, 10, 11. You see?
Hmm. So can I go
Yeah.
for 8?
Yes, yes. If you can also go for 10 or 11. Anyway, 8 also is a bit older. So if
Hmm.
10 is available, you can go with 10. That is the standard version now.
Oh, thank you, sir.